A senior fellow at the US Policy Research Institute is trying to set Nigeria on fire. And however bad that may sound to you, it's so much worse than what you think. Here's what is happening. The American Enterprise Institute is a private non-profit founded in 1943, which has grown into an institution that is effectively the beating heart of the US economic and political establishment. This is not just a respected conservative think tank. This is a body that has the entire who's who of the US establishment elite either sitting on its board or among its many funders. And speaking of funding, it has funding from all the regular suspects. Ford Foundation here, Gates Foundation there, Kellogg the other place. The AEI has real clout in the US. The sort of clout that enables it to influence legislation and foreign policy. The AEI is so influential that it was single-handedly responsible for the entire Iraq war strategy under George Bush Jr. In fact, the Project for a New American Century, which was the think tank whose work between the late 90s and the early 90s basically shaped the geopolitical world that we live in today, reportedly rented its office space from the AEI. I'm mentioning all of this to create a mental reference for just how powerful this organization really is. Essentially, if the AEI adopts a policy position and puts it forward, there's a very real possibility that it could become US government policy, which also makes it one of the most powerful non-profit organizations in the world. Now, 9,000 kilometers away from Washington in Nigeria, two things are happening. The first is that a series of deadly attacks against Christian communities in the country's middle belt and north have severely raised the risk of chaotic sectarian warfare of the sort witnessed in the Central African Republic in 2013. Between 2019 and 2020, I was part of a research team that worked on a documentation project tracking these attacks. That project resulted in this report, which was presented to former US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo in 2020. The report showed that these targeted killings met many of the legal definitions for genocide, and it formed the basis for his decision to designate Nigeria as a country of particular concern shortly before he left office. Now, the second thing that is happening is that a few hundred miles to the southeast of this violence, a different type of violence is taking place. This time, the cause is not religious but ethnic. The indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, a group that emerged from relative obscurity to national notoriety over the past decade, led by its charismatic director, Nnamdi Kanu, is on a rampage, or at least a faction of it is. Now, I don't want to bore you with Nigerian history, so cliff notes. During the 3-year Nigerian Civil War, also known as the Biafran War, between 1967 and 1970, an estimated 3 million civilians on the Biafran side died, mostly as a result of starvation due to a Nigerian federal blockade. Most of these casualties were from Nigeria's Igbo ethnic group. And while Nigeria's government has never officially recognized these events as a genocide, there is very little doubt about the true ugliness of what happened all those years ago. While the end of the war in 1970 did not lead to the end of Biafran separatism as an idea, it was the emergence of Nnamdi Kanu and his IPOB group over the past decade and some that turned that residual bitterness into a political ideology. A violent political ideology.
People must go to the bush, ambush them. Go to the bush, you need to cut them off from the back, ambush them, take their guns from them and kill them. These are animals, they are not human beings. They may be wearing police army, they are not human beings. These are terrorists from Niger, these are terrorists from Gambia, these are foreign terrorists from Chad. They are not human beings. Disarm them and kill them. If you allow them to scare you off the streets, your life is over. Your life is over. And I want Lagos Airport to be on flames. Boost the perimeter fence. Go and burn down Lagos. Anybody, if you have double barrel, if you have pistol, anything you have, give it to them, let them go and kill them, penetrate the airport and set Motola Mohammed Airport on fire. Set it ablaze right now. Then the world will listen. You are dealing with animals. Fulani Janjaweed, they are animals. They do not reason. They do not reason. You don't know them. You don't know them. How many policemen died? I don't want to hear they kill us, they kill us. How many did you kill? How many police or army did you kill? How many?
They have burned the Lafa police station. They have burned it down. They burned the Select police station. They burned the Urile police station down. Everything is down now as I'm speaking.
Thank you very much.
These days, Kanu sits in prison in Nigeria's capital, and IPOB has been proscribed as a terror entity in Nigeria. But this has only worsened the violence. Since Kanu's arrest, a young lieutenant of his based in Finland called Simon Ekpa has filled that leadership void, with methods so violent and so off-putting that the group has effectively split into two factions, with a faction loyal to Kanu regularly dissociating itself from actions linked to Ekpa's faction. Taking advantage of Nigeria's weak internal security and Nigeria's elephant-paced government, Simon Ekpa has created a non-state militia calling itself the Biafran Liberation Army. And you can guess the rest of the story. It's a mess. And here's where the AEI comes in. Now, over the past few months, Michael Rubin, a senior policy fellow at the AEI, has published a series of articles on the organization's website, openly calling for the US government to intervene militarily in Nigeria, ostensibly to help Biafra, which according to him is a persecuted Christian oasis surrounded by a hostile Islamic majority in Nigeria. The problem here is that this is simply not true. Nigeria's population is almost evenly split between Christian and Muslim, and the basis of Biafran separatism is ethnic, not religious. Rubin, however, repeatedly pushes the falsehood that the Bafran Movement and the agitation by Christians facing real violence in Nigeria's Middle Belt and North are one and the same thing. This is completely false. Not only are the vast majority of the affected Christian groups not ethnically or ideologically linked to Biafran separatism, but even the Biafran movement itself has historically never portrayed itself as a Christian nationalist movement. By deliberately conflating ethnic separatism and Christian nationalism and modeling up basic geography to misrepresent the situation, and even describing Simon Ekpa, who was recently arrested and put on trial for terrorism in Finland, as a persecuted African dissident, Rubin is knowingly pushing a dangerously false narrative for the consumption of a powerful American audience. A narrative which, given the AEI's influence, could someday end up in an official US foreign policy document. While fringe ideas about Biafran exceptionalism, such as an alleged Biafran Israelite origin, have long existed and were even promoted by Mr. Kanu before his arrest, they are usually recognized as fringe views and not taken seriously. This is the first time that a powerful policy organization with genuine influence over American government decision-making is attempting to mainstream the idea that one of Nigeria's 3 majority ethnic groups should be designated as an Israel by the US government, with the rest of Nigeria becoming Palestine, if you know what I mean. And if you're familiar with the AEI's position on the real Palestine, this should worry you a lot. If you're in West Africa, you should especially be worried, because if this attempt to seed this dangerous narrative should bear fruit, and the result is any kind of sustained foreign military presence in the supposed Biafra, then there's every probability that we'll find out too late that this whole thing is being orchestrated for the same reason that every other African conflict is orchestrated: the resources. It's always the resources.